To remain updated with the latest business news, click on the bell icon.
Mr. Vishwanathan, I wanted to ask you, we've come a long way from Tigor EV and other models that were experimented, but affordability still remains an issue. How can the industry get over that? Because essentially it's still 40 to 60% more expensive than other conventional fuel vehicles, but which still is a problem for people for mass adoption. How can that be solved?
You'll be surprised, Prerna, because the change and rate of adoption will never be linear. It is just a question of availability and falling in place of several components of the infrastructure that Kishore and Samir talked about. For instance, last year only 1% of the total sales in India was in EV vehicles in India. This year, for example, in the first half, we have exceeded what is the total consumption of automobile consumption of last year of EV in the first 6 months itself, and the best is yet to come. A. B. Secondly, the realization of the society and more conscious focus on the entire concept around ESG, focus on a circular economy vis-a-vis a linear economy in terms of reuse, refurbish, re-engineer, etc., which much stronger today than the awareness what was in the past. The second reason which gives me confidence what could be done. And C, even if I say several auto majors to build up to what Kishore talked about, for example, a Swedish major, not necessarily in the car, but in say large truck space, they're all experimenting R&D because as 40% of cost today in an electric vehicle is all battery. The 40% is all battery. People are all doing engineering and redesign and R&D on battery technology, what could be done, what needs to be done to put it across to what can be done. As I said, the Swedish major, they're setting up their R&D, continue to set up their R&D plant in India for doing the work so that the trucks which go for long haul, typically of a 80 million euro truck, close to about say 40 million are all batteries they're looking at which is taking place. Fourth, which is more importantly, the moment battery as a service as a concept picks up, battery service the concept picks up today you have to buy an outright battery or not. I presume in say 3 to 4 years from now it will become battery as a service, right? You pay and use model, etc. That will completely transform. Lastly, which both the gentlemen talked about, AI in battery. AI in battery tells you the charge level, discharge level, next electric charging level point, etc. All the infrastructure putting together will significantly bring down the cost required. As I said, it is going to be exponential adoption. Even as I speak to you, there's an incentive that government of India has given. GST being only 5% on EV, right? Delhi government is giving 10,000 rupees for battery kit, which is available to you, tradable battery kittable amount they give you subject to 30,000 rupees rebate. What you get is second aspect of it. All put together will change the behavior much more rapid. Cost will get reduced the volume that is taking place. This is my Bhavishyavani for 2025 to 2030.
Right.
So
Mr. Patil, I wanted to ask you. He talked about software R&D, but don't you think there's an innate need of developing your domestic manufacturing and R&D capability rather than depending on others for supply chain issues and other? Obviously, it'll have to be a collaborative effort, but how do we build it more domestically? How do you become more self-reliant?
certainly, I'll get there within a minute, but I may just want to add what Case mentioned. If you
Yeah.
two, three things. One thing is, see, in case of electric, largely it is a cost of ownership you should try to compare. In case of a normal vehicle, you put diesel or petrol every day, and typically that you keep on doing that expense every day. And typically when it is a battery, lot of that expenditure you are doing upfront. So it is more to do, if you really look at cost of ownership, the difference is relatively less. And as the new models will emerge, whether it is swapping of the batteries or battery as a service or multiple things, I think there will be a equalizer effect. and slowly it come down. Typically, the calculation was at $75 a barrel. Electric car becomes affordable. But now both battery prices coming down to significant extent, as well as oil prices going up. I think both way, I think we'll reach this equilibrium quicker than later, specifically with the scale of adoption. And if you look at two-wheeler or three-wheeler, you can see that actually in the market, the demand which is generated, it shows that there is the affordability is there. So that is our point number one. Point number two, coming to your point, what you specifically asked me about. See, I think the localization is a major part, right, in bringing down the cost as well as this, and it will have to happen. And to some extent, somebody talked about uh, different cycles, driving cycles in different countries. Our average speed on the road is much lower than if you look at the global average speed. All this basically means the driving cycles are different, and it will require localization. It will require calibration. It will require that part. So I think the ecosystem will evolve. And we have we have a participant here who is really doing that. And I think all ER&D community can really contribute to this, basically because uh, in any components there will be hardware, but there will be software. And more importantly, I may say, as we see, is the integration is a very big requirement. And integration to make a product really industrialized for a product and for environment. Like in India, for example, temperatures are much higher in as compared to the others. So it is not that the imported products can be just adopted. And specifically, if you look at public transport, where or some of these areas where there's no air conditioning, there's no those. So there are different problems we face in India. So there will be a lot of localization, and this ecosystem will evolve. And so both manufacturers, component manufacturers, software developers, integrators, all will have a role to play in this journey. And that will be, I think, it is required anyway by more or less. That is a pre-requirement by the government, and this ecosystem will evolve.
Prerna, I'll just add a point to what Kishorji said. Even if I see the announcements of, say, Hyundai as a car, they have already announced by 2028 they'll have six new vehicles based on EV coming into the market. The challenge would be in the next 5 years. What is again, the government of India is saying cars more than 15 years are not liable to be deployed on the road is a good step in the right direction. If we can make an alternative swap, an exchange offer taking place could make the difference. Last but not least, the several new companies that come in offer what you call battery swapping as a service, battery swapping, etc. You lease battery rather than buy battery. All of them are completely going to change the paradigm that we are talking about.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.